We're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125, and all our social media handles are Joy News on TV. My personal handle is @Aisha. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. This is Election Brief. It's on your election headquarters. Election headquarters is brought to you by Petrosol, clean fuel and in full quantity. SIMA, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, and AICPA and SIMA together as Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, the German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental Wellness and Beauty, and Chopbox Technologies, a convenient service. Election headquarters is for an informed electorate. Please do stay for details. Some political parties are questioning the competence of the Electoral Commission after admitting another error in its provisional registration update. At the end of day 11 of the limited registration exercise, the EC figures suggest 459,291 had been registered, but 11 hours after posting the figures, the EC admitted errors, saying Greater Accra was wrongly repeated for the Upper East region. The political parties are not happy and are questioning the EC's competence in the entire exercise. But the Deputy EC Chairman in charge of operations, Samuel Tete, says the Commission will not hide from its mistake and will work to make it better.
Faulty machines and inaccurate registration statistics. The Commission has duly and publicly acknowledged the challenges that were faced, especially in the first 2 days of the ongoing limited voters registration exercise. The registration process has since been seamless and smooth, as the public can testify and as the daily registration figures show. For example, in the first 2 days of the registration, we had a total of 35,784. However, on days 3 and 4, we had a total of 107,230. Since then, the daily statistics has been on the rise. On the issue of mistakes in infographs that the Commission acknowledged and corrected, it is important to reiterate that those mistakes did not affect the actual number of registered voters per district or region. All the political parties with agents at the various registration centers, including the NDC, have the same registered voters figures as the Commission. As a Commission, we will not hide from our mistakes. What is more important is that we identified why the mistakes happened and why they were not detected before publication. We have since put in place a system that will make sure this never happens again.
The EC has taken some steps to ensure the cause of the error is not repeated. Joy News' research desk has been probing the figures further. Isaac Kofieje joins me in the studio with more. Kofieje, what more have we found?
Well, Aisha, we know election is about figures, and if you joke with the figures, it can cause a lot of harm, even though what's going on the ground, everything is correct.
Chaos,
but if you do not compile the data really well, it can pose a lot of challenges. And we understand that this is purely, infographic error, because according to the EC, per the data that they have, in terms of the summations and the actual data they have, everything is correct. But, putting that data out in a very simplified form for Ghanaians to understand, that is what their infographics team, I must say, are not doing that job correctly. errors are allowed, but the magnitude of the error is also important. And if it's continuous, then it becomes questionable.
Yeah.
We've had a number of corrections that the EC has to do with the same infographics. And we believe that with due diligence, this should not occur 2 or 3 times. But the first communique that came out, you see a number of errors. So in red, that is what the infographics actually reported, and in green, that is what you get when you do the summations, the regional summations, when you use the actual figure provided by the EC. So day 1, for instance, EC recorded 16,517 registered voters, and there was some sort of tally. There were no issues from day 1. But day 2, what EC recorded in the infographics was 25,287. But if you do the actual summation, it is 19,261. Huge difference between
67 actually.
Absolutely. Huge difference between what was recorded on the infographics and what
the reality.
The reality, absolutely. Now, day 3, 43,000, and you see what was recorded, 48,000. So you can see some sort of, discrepancy between what the EC put on their infographics versus what the reality is, what the figures look in terms of the actual. Now, let's look at the next graphics. The same thing in terms of some of the corrections that EC. So after the corrections, what we saw was that day 2, what EC reported in the infographics was still higher than the correction EC made, 19,000.
Which is 19,000.
Day 3, what they actually put on the infographics was less than what the correction EC made. Now, they said that the totals, there was nothing wrong with the totals. But guess what we were able to find?
You found out.
When we did the summations. That will pan out. But this is the latest error that everybody is talking about, where we are talking about the challenge, registration, where the Greater Accra region, just by looking at the infographics, you see a stark difference between what was put for the Greater Accra region and the Upper East region. But in terms of figures, in terms of labeling the graphs, you see that same 981 for Greater Accra region and 981 for the Upper East region. Anyone looking at this infographic will know that this is transpositional error.
Yep.
And these are some of the things that if there is strong supervision of some of these infographics should not occur. Because right from looking at the data, you should know that the labels or the labeling should not be the same.
Yeah. Now,
the EC did the correction, and let's see what they actually put out. So, in fact, the actual challenge figure for the Upper East region was 149.
And look at the gap.
That's
it's such a wide gap.
That's why these are elementary errors, and EC, if there's proper supervision, should not be making some of these errors on their infographic. Because infographics, we know it goes through a certain process. Raw data converted to graphics, the supervision, you check everything, if everything is okay before you put that data out. And so, I mean, the reason why people are concerned is we saw the same thing happen in the 2020 election, where summations were different from percentages and all of that. And so if you are going into another crucial election and just registration data, we've seen some of these mistakes. And EC must do its homework really well.
EC must do its homework very well, and that's Kofi J from our research desk. Now, the General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Kwete, says the misrepresentation of the figures is a clear attempt by the EC to rig the elections.
The NDC unequivocally rejects the Electoral Commission's use of offline registrations, which could potentially cloak their inefficiencies under the guise of technical challenges. Such practices not only undermine the integrity of the electoral process, but are also ripe for exploitation, including data manipulation and the introduction of errors that could skew the process outcome. This situation exemplifies what we term transpositional rigging of elections, where figures are shuffled between categories without affecting the overall total. In the OT region, the day 2 figure of 578 was erroneously swapped with the 3's figure of 1,515. Bono East recorded 2,252 per hour data. This figure will affect the total registered voters of 5,118 for Bono East for the 4 days as stated by the EC. It has come to our attention that EC registration officials, in collusion with elements of the NPP, are misusing the Ghana card extensively. A particularly alarming instance was uncovered at the Pusiga Registration Center, where EC registration officer Muhazu Al-Hassan used a single Ghana card to register 20 different applicants.
I've been joined by Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Democratic Governance, IDEC, Professor Kwesi Jonah, for more on this. Grateful for your time, Prof. In the last elections, the EC Commissioner had to change her figures severally. This raised lots of eyebrows. Today, some political parties are unhappy because the same thing is happening with the voter registration figures. How dangerous is the EC's posture?
Well, thank you very much, Aisha. My greeting to all your listeners. Aisha, all I want to say is that the 2024 election is a very crucial election. It is not just an election any other, but just an election in which the stakes are very, very high. Why? One says, I want to break the 8. The other party says, we are not going to break the 8. And so on and so forth. In fact, some candidates have already said that they are not going to go to court again. So the EC should be very, very careful in the kind of test it puts out. They should be very, very careful, because even if the errors they make are not politically motivated, the slightest mistake can spark violent tension. And so, by anticipating the EC, I have seen the figures myself and have some defense which cannot be public at state. But it is very important for you to be very, very careful kind of out, and there are any discrepancies observed by stakeholders, especially the party. It will be a very good idea to come and emergency attack to explain why these are happening and how they propose to correct them, so that everybody involved in the election process will be satisfied. But to continue giving up figures with so many issues, I think, will only up in trouble for this country.
I'm happy that you mentioned that the election we're going into is a very crucial one. Building confidence, however, in the people is one thing the EC cannot compromise with. How do we deal with this continued mistrust of the EC by the political parties? But
Aisha, I have told you that EC should get in touch with the stakeholders. Look at just listen to Fifi Kwete, the General Secretary of the NDC. These are errors that may not be politically motivated, but you still cannot prevent political parties from reading into errors to their participants. And so, for me, it would be a good idea for the East to convene an effective effort, not even an emergency effort, to organize in of the key segments of the key parties, go through the figures put out, and then explain why errors are and how they to deal errors, so that each party will be happy. And it's just good for the entire nation, not just for the entire nation, because I don't talk any party, but I fear that any error out of it could be some kind of solution.
Professor Kwesi Jonah is with IDEC. I'm grateful for your time. Now, Communication Officer with the Movement for Change, Courage Boti, says, Courage Nobi actually says the development is eroding confidence in the electoral system.
With all the technology for tabulation and counting that is available, even something as basic as Excel has the capacity to do this accurately. It's worrying that some of these errors continue to occur. But what the greater worry is that it creates doubt
about the capacity of the commission, about the integrity of the commission, and that casts doubt on the elections, and I don't think it is proper for our democracy. So what I think the EC needs to do is to ensure that it is doing any and everything possible to build greater confidence in its processes. But these constant review of figures does not reflect that at the moment. So what I will call for is an auditing of its systems, auditing of its personnel.
Religious bodies and the clergy have been urged to rise and speak against the lack of transparency on the path of government in the lead up to the upcoming elections. Flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, who is making the appeal, has reignited accusations against the EC and the Akufo-Addo-led government of appointing party loyalists in an attempt to twist the outcome of the election in their favor. Mr. Mahama emphasized the growing tension, if not intervened by the clergy, can lead to chaos in the upcoming elections. He spoke during an engagement with the Christian Ecumenical Council.
We are preparing for the election, and we believe that as moral voices of society, you must not take your eyes off the ball. The EC is the arbiter, the EC is the umpire, and the EC must not only be neutral, it must be seen to be neutral and non-partisan. Unfortunately, recent events do not give us confidence about this. There's a president who is appointing politically, exposed people into positions of trust where they are supposed to be neutral and non-partisan. And so people who have been communicators for the party, people who have been IT backstops for the party, today are commissioners of the Electoral Commission. How do you expect them to be neutral and fair in what is happening? People who were patrons of TESCON on campus are today commissioners of the Electoral Commission. How do we expect them to be neutral and fair in what is coming up? And so it means that we must be vigilant, we must be more alert. We as political parties are going to use the instruments that are provided in the Electoral Code to ensure that the election is free and fair. We're going to train our party agents, we're going to incentivize them to be vigilant on the day, we're going to make sure that we are at the collation centers on time and we witness the tally of the results. We're going to police the election every step of the way. But sometimes there are things that are difficult to control. For instance, our last complaint was about recruitment of returning officers. You heard Hobson Adoye on radio say that they took MPP executives from Kumau and brought them to a Jusu by-election as returning officers. And there are pictures of some of them who are executives. And we are not able to check it because the CI says that 14 days before an election, before the by-election, we were supposed to have the list of returning officers and be able to make an objection if we believe that somebody is a politically exposed person. We went to a Jusu by-election without the list of returning officers. And so it was possible for them to recruit people who were party activists as returning officers.
Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, founder and presiding Archbishop of Action Chapel International, who spoke on behalf of the clergy, said the clergy will not sit and allow Ghanaians to become refugees as a result of elections and political leadership.
The masses, there is too much pain and suffering in this country. All our doctors and our nurses are leaving this country. And we just pray that things will be well handled and managed in transparency and fairness, that we will not end up being refugees in any other country, because without proper fairness and honesty and transparency, things may fall out of hand. And may I say this, that nobody should think that the Ghanaian is a very gentle, don't like trouble human being. It's not true, because I saw what happened 79 and 81, and they were Ghanaians. And some of the violence and the murderers and unrest in certain parts of this country, like what's going on in Boko and other places, they are all Ghanaians. And if we don't manage things well, and we have this mentality and thinking that any party can do whatever they want to do, and the Ghanaian will accept it, and the Ghanaian will live for it, you might be playing with fire, make no mistake. Because when people are desperate and are hungry, they don't care about what happens. And hungry and desperate people are very dangerous people to manage and to deal with. When demons come into town and possess people, then you will know that maybe you really didn't understand the Ghanaian, because when a demon enters a person, it doesn't care about your tribe or your citizenship. It rules you. So I think that, Mr. Former President, and to your party, we should be very aware of some of these things. I wouldn't want to say much, but I have a lot of questions I want to personally ask, and I believe that all the members of the clergy here have a lot of unanswered questions that we want to put to you to find and to have some answers so that we know how to educate our congregation in going forward.
Flag bearer of the opposition NDC, John Mahama, is also blaming the current woes in the health sector on what he describes as the Akufo-Addo government's duplication and creation of rivalry in healthcare delivery in the country. According to Mr. Mahama, the resources pumped into the stalled Agenda 111 hospital projects could have been better used to improve the existing hospitals, especially those managed by the religious institutions, rather than constructing new facilities.
The churches are very active in terms of the establishment of health institutions. And so here again, government and the church have the same objective, and that is to provide quality health to our people. And so we cannot be adversaries, we cannot be rivals in terms of that. And so I remember when I was a president, I announced that where we have a properly functioning mission church, we will not go and put a rival public church in the community. The money we would use to set up another hospital, we will not put a rival hospital in the community. The money that we would spend to establish a new hospital, we can use to expand the facilities of the mission hospital so that it continues to provide service. Unfortunately, under the 111 policy, that has not happened. In many places, they are properly functioning mission churches, but the state has gone to put rival public hospitals, I don't know. I'm in the spirit, so. They are properly functioning hospitals that are managed by the churches, and yet the government has gone to put a rival government hospital, investing a lot of money to build a whole new hospital, when we could have put that money into the existing hospital managed by the churches. And so it creates a duplication of efforts. It's a duplication of application of resources. And so it's something that we need to look at. And my thinking is that we must forge a new partnership in the health system in respect of the public hospitals and the church-run hospitals.
And that was former President Mahama, NDC flag bearer for 2024. Now, leader of the new force, Nana Kwame Bediako, has called on the Electoral Commission to extend the limited voter registration exercise to all polling centers in Ghana. Instead of the 1,053 registration centers it is currently limited to. Nana Kwame Bediako, who refused to give the exact number of days the exercise should be extended to, said several will-be voters will be disenfranchised if the challenges that have so far characterized the exercise are not addressed.
I would like to bring this petition to the notice of the Electoral Commission, a governmental body to protect the right of the country's democratic rights. From the 7th of May to 27th of May, they have given us 20 days to practice our voting registration rights. And this, I have put a petition on behalf of the nation against it, asking the EC to reconsider this duration and extend the time for us. 27th of May, this practice is supposed to end, making it exactly 20 days. For 33 million people as a nation is certainly not enough, certainly impossible to make it right for a country. Now let's look at other countries like Europe.
The National Democratic Congress has launched a fundraiser campaign for the upcoming December general elections. The Support Voter NDC campaign 2024 aims at raising funds from party faithfuls and well-wishers to finance campaign activities of the party in its strongholds.
The NDC Volta Regional Treasurer, Daniel Agboka-Zegede, alluded that members have failed to honor their monthly dues obligations, which made it difficult to fund administrative and campaign activities. He said it became imperative for the party to explore other means to raise funds, hence the launch of the Support Volta NDC campaign 2024. This, he said, was to take the burden of financing party activities off the shoulders of members of parliament and former appointees.
In the past, we always rely on former appointees and some few people to support the party. But as a growing organization, NDC, we have moved up to a stage that we need to come out with strategies of raising funds to sustain our movement. So let's work together. It is not only the executive, it is you, the party members. Without you, we cannot make it. Collectively, we can achieve a mega thing. Collectively, we will win December 7th election by 57%. 57%, nothing will change it. With more money, with more l'argent on the table, I mean, 57 should be the minimum for us.
The NDC Volta Regional Chairman, Mauto Agbavito, expressed optimism about the NDC winning the upcoming general elections, but stressed that the party needs resources to fuel campaign activities to achieve this feat.
The code is *5285, *24852, and it's targeted, like I mentioned, to the micro or to people who really want to support us. And we are entreating people from this region to support the NDC so that we'll be able to carry out our activities and rescue this country from the claws of this incompetent government. The time is now. We have to go forward and we have to move forward. No retreat, no surrender. This is the time for us to rescue this country by pulling out the support that is necessary.
The NDC Volta Regional Secretary, James Gunu, indicated that the party must be more innovative and pragmatic in pooling resources to undertake campaign activities.
John Dramani Mahama win massively. It is only by so doing that Volta region can survive. That Volta region can see the necessary development and the infrastructure that is needed. So it is not about NDC. It is not about Volta region NDC now. It is about the development of this region. It's about the survival of this region. And it is about John Mahama winning to save Ghana. That is what you are contributing towards.
The NDC hopes to raise about 10 million Ghana cedis to finance campaign activities in the Volta region in anticipation of winning the 2024 general elections. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Ho.
And that's your election brief on your election headquarters. Election headquarters is for an informed electorate. You can log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.